An interesting story here, and of course many might have been following this up, and it's the loss of Cyprian Awiti's seat. The appeal court nullified his election, and this of course was to the advantage of Magwanga, who has maintained that the elections were marred with irregularities. So if he does not appeal again, it basically means that the people of Homa Bay would have to go back to the polls. But I want you to also look at another story that would probably be interesting in that regard on page 9, which is Chiloba loses bid to return to work. And according to Justice Radido, he ruled that Chiloba had not made a strong case to warrant his reinstatement, and that his issues with the IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, could not be resolved by lifting the suspension. Now, why I find these two stories interesting as they run concurrently is that should the people of Homa Bay go back to the polls, is IEBC ready to actually hold the polls? Remember, we also have a number of commissioners that had quit. We don't have a CEO sitting in place. So who exactly is going to run this election if that happens? Let's start with you, Bernard.
I think the issue pertaining to Magwanga and Awit has been running since nomination. You remember Magwanga was in ODM and Awit was in ODM, and I was on this studio when there was so chaos in Homa Bay during that day of nomination. So after nomination, Awit was given ODM nomination. Then we come to see Magwanga running as an independent candidate. Then after that, again, these rigging claims. But I strongly feel that Awit did not take the case serious at the trial stage. He thought that because he had gone through this and he has been winning, then the case was weak. But Magwanga was very keen on having the case or the election of Awit nullified. Now, looking at the dynamics of Homa Bay, I think the people of Homa Bay should just start preparing for by-election, despite the fact that IEBC is having challenges in terms of the composition of the commissioners. But again, the other day we heard from the chairman, Chebukati, saying that the IEBC commission is ready to carry out these nomination by elections, despite the fact that there is no CEO in the name of Chiloba. So I think IEBC is capable.
But Bernard, here, yes, Dr. Sam.
I want to disagree with my colleague in terms of capacity of IEBC to handle nominations. Of course, they're just putting on a brave face. Right. But I think the crisis that has been IEBC, I think they're just counting their days. There's so much disorganization. And remember, the absence of Chiloba, or rather of the CEO, let me not say Chiloba, has actually significantly affected the operations of the commission in terms of the people who are in an acting capacity. How many of the decisions can they make? In terms of, yes, the commissioners may have the quorum of 3. I mean, the minimum of 3, but the quorum in IEBC is not 3. So in terms of the way they are currently constituted, they are just putting on a brave face, but I doubt their ability to run the elections. But let me go back to the issue of Cyprian Awiti. I think one of the discussions we're having is that the Supreme Court, because most likely is headed to the Supreme Court, perhaps should only deal with, on elections, it's just the presidential elections. But for the other, positions, they should ideally be settled at the Court of Appeal. I know even Governor Alfred Mutua has already gone to the Supreme Court. But for Awiti, it is a delicate situation because you remember the High Court nullified his win. He went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal actually agreed with the High Court and again upheld that nullification. I think looking at it, there is every sense, and if you look at the case that I was raised, yes, partly it came up from the nominations, and parties actually have to put their house in order in terms of how they conduct nominations. But on this particular one, the people of Homa Bay should actually start preparing for by-election. Remember, it's already almost a year, actually it's a year since, the elections of August 8th. We had said one of the reforms is to ensure that we are able to dispense with the election matters within the shortest time possible. And this need not go to the Supreme Court, although it is within his right. But I think we should actually put it in law so that the Supreme Court restricts itself to handling issues that have to do with the presidential election, and then the Court of Appeal is able to make a final determination on these other issues.
But gentlemen, what do you think is the answer to IEBC? Because they seem to be chasing a mountain here. They're going around the same mountain.
They need to go home.
Why they need to go home, because that's what I was actually going to ask is, you take a look at Iraq, right? right? Iraq had elections, and what they did is that they scrapped out all their 9 commissioners within their electoral body and replaced them with judges. It's been almost a year, like you said. Kenyans are not happy with IEBC. IEBC in itself, commissioners are leaving, the CEO and the chairman seem to be having a problem. Should we just scrap okay, not all, but certain individuals, the commissioners as well as Chiloba and his boss, and have a fresh group of people, especially if Kenyans will go for a by-election and a referendum, which seems to be in the talks?
Zinzi, the problem we have at IBC is not just about commissioners, because as Kenyans we have paid more focus on the commissioners and left out the secretariat. But when you look deeply into the issues affecting IBC, you realize that the problem lies not only with the commissioners but with the secretariat. There's need for total cleanup in the whole system. Because, you know, when we put interest first, and interest here I mean political interest, when we are selecting the commissioners, you remember that even during the interview for Chebukati, I'm told he emerged almost last. But due to political interest, he was put the chairman of the commission, leaving out those who had qualified for that job. When you look at the secretariat, you realize that there are people who are brought in for specific interests, for political interests, right. And these people are there to serve those interests. People are arguing, even the likes of Chiloba, you know, he was there to serve interests, and now that the interests are gone, he has to go. So I should advise my friend Chiloba that his time at IEBC is gone. Let him not waste time in courts, and let him concentrate on other things.
Exactly my point. Why are we wasting time when we already had candidates? Perhaps we could make a fresh group of IEBC leaders.
I would say the challenge with IEBC, okay, the problems are not exactly within IEBC. There are also other issues that will be outside. But I think the current challenge right now is that they have lost the support and the goodwill of a very important stakeholder, that is the political parties. You remember not long ago, the political parties seemed to have closed ranks and agreed that IEBC needs to go home. And you know, their ability to also charge the public. That is why when you say the public has lost confidence in IEBC, it's because the political parties are no longer supportive. So in that sense, then we may actually need to start the reforms again by replacing them, but also ensuring that we also have some legal reforms that would strengthen, because we saw the weaknesses around the 2017 elections.
But Zinzi, before we go out of that issue, can we have systems in place that is going to create an IEBC that is sustainable beyond the 5 years cycle? Because we always create this IEBC, then we bring in commissioners to carry out an election. After that election, we start crying for.
And that